Through the Leadership Lens is brought to you by Thompson Autogas. Thompson Autogas is the industry's gold standard turnkey solution for all your autogas needs. From funding to refueling and everything in between, Thompson Autogas is there to support your fleet every step of the way.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast presented by the Women in Propane Council. I am Freddie Riddler.
And I'm Bridget Kidd, and today we are so excited to have Lisa Gerwitz, who is the General Manager of Barrett Propane, joining us today. Welcome, Lisa. We're so excited to have you.
Great. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Great. So as you know, Lisa, this podcast is about leadership through all of our guests' individual lenses. And I'm wondering if you could kick us off by just talking about, in a general sense, what does leadership mean to you?
I think leadership means to me of providing that experience and help and knowledge to my employees, and also getting it from my upper management also to me to be able to do my job effectively and safely and efficiently for my company and my customers.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about experience. Being that leader, being in the industry or whatever career path you're currently in. But how has that experience changed? I mean, we've seen a lot of leadership competencies change throughout the 5, 6, 7 years now, especially the COVID kind of lingering around, but it's kind of in the back seat now. But how can you explain how that leadership has changed throughout time at your role?
Well, I think for me, the leadership has changed. So I started in the propane industry 30 years ago this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, I started out in an office answering the phone as a CSR, and I've been through every single job, I think, in the propane world, from being a bobtail driver to a service tech to, a VP of a supply for a company. So I think it's such an evolving thing. Especially through COVID, of people working remotely. That was never an option in our world previously. And so I had to work remotely during those times also. And so that was really kind of hard for me because I like to be in the office. I like to be around people. So I think it's been a change for me, is just having to adapt to that and to the younger workforce, because they have different ideas of work ethics than I have or what I grew up with. So it's just having to figure out how to manage those people, and every single one of them is different. I have 8 employees, and managing them, every single one of them is different to manage them. So it's just having to figure out that baseline, I guess, and then adapting to that.
Lisa, has there been anyone in your experience, like, either in your corporate development or kind of personally, that you thought, gosh, that's the kind of leader I want to emulate? And would you tell us, if so, would you tell us a little bit about that?
So in my early career, Bob Rossler was a region vice president for AmeriGas, and he was over here on the West Coast, and he was just an excellent mentor for me. He taught me he was one of those of just, you just need to go out and learn it. Just go do it and learn everything you can absolutely learn. It was never, that's not my job. And so he was really instrumental on getting me in my career that I've been doing this now for 30 years. And the other person that was really good for me was Charlie Ory. So yeah, he was my personal mentor, my professional mentor. Just always, behind me, giving me great advice, telling me when I did something stupid, or just saying, hey, you should have done it this way versus how you did it. And so Charlie was a great mentor for me. Charlie was.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great compliment. I hear that in the industry a lot. I mean, I think that legacy is an incredible one to have. What about when you look at, kind of the jokingly, like, oh gosh, you shouldn't have done it that way, or, there's an opportunity for improvement. When you look at your leadership style, how do you kind of hone your skills? And, you're talking about the differences in the employees that you manage and even just people you work with having different expectations and different sets of experiences or abilities. What do you do to best meet them where they are?
Well, for me, I really try to get to know my employees. So I know some of the things that happen in their outside life versus also what I just see on their work life. So that I can figure out, there's things that maybe I need to work around for them. They're going through a divorce or they've got child custody issues or, you just have to figure out what's the balance of that. And I'm a really black and white kind of person. So it's really hard for me sometimes to find that gray area
Mm-hmm.
that everything's still good and safe and efficient and policy and procedure, but you still got a gray area. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I struggle with that. And my mentors have to, or my upper management have to come and go, okay, Lisa, let's think about this and how you did this and what would you do better next time, because sometimes I don't see the gray. Things are a lot of black and white for me.
Mm-hmm. And you said something that's kind of leading up to my question is the younger workforce. There's a lot, when you just said it, 30 years in the propane industry. So I've been in the propane industry for 19 years, and I have no idea, Bridget, how long you've been in the propane industry.
13 years,
13 years. So, a lot has changed, and there's a lot of younger generational shift that's kind of coming into it. And it's funny hearing you say, like, back in the day, Freddie or Lisa or Bridget, that's a stupid idea. Don't do it that way. And we're like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's how we kind of got into this role. With the younger generation that's listening on this right now, we have to change that direction a little bit. We have to understand their story, what's going on in their life. Like you just said it. Could they be going through something at home? Could they be going through something with their family? Is somebody sick at home that's bringing that into the workforce? Would you mind sharing a story that there was a younger person that you helped or assisted as a leader, and you kind of changed your ways of leading that person because you knew they were part of that younger generation?
Yeah, I mean, I had an employee once, younger man, early 30s, was getting a divorce. And, there was just a lot of stress in his life at that moment. And he had a small child. And so, he had the every other weekend, the twice a week getting from school and back and forth. And so we really I just had to sit down and say, okay, tell me what your parameters are of what I
Mm-hmm.
can do to help you, to work with you, to get you through this part. So because, I expect people to be at work at 7, I expect them to work and get all done all day. And, and he was like, I can't drop her off till 7:45, and so
Mm-hmm.
we just had to sit down, come up with the parameters of things that I needed to work with for him. And he was good, great at his job,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just great at his job. So I just needed to make that work. And then I had to explain it to the other employees of why we're making this work for him,
Mm-hmm.
so that they
And
understood, because I have an older workforce other than him, that type of thing. So it was just a sit down, come to an agreement, figure out what was good for him, good for us as a company, and make his life as, less stressful at work as we could.
Mm-hmm.
mhm. Way to make it a point to see that person's value and adapt to that person to bring out the best of them. That's incredible, and I hope a lot of people hear that because there are a lot of great younger employees out there that might not be able to do the 8 to 5 or 7 to 4. That might have to take a lunch hour at a different time, and that's great to see a leader like yourself, Lisa, to say I found the value in this young gentleman. And I want to make sure we keep him comfortable. We want to make sure he stays on board with our company, and let's work around what's going on in your home life. So that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
And
Well,
I
it
think
sounds
that's
like, I mean, the flexibility that, seniority allows often has to be extended to, those people you manage. And I think that is also a leadership style, right? Like acknowledging what people need and supporting them, so long as it's a give and take, right? Like you still have to perform for the company,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
we can be flexible in how we do that.
well, and I think the propane industry too. I mean, we're a big industry, but we're really a small industry. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of family businesses out there. And there is some flexibility in there. And
Mm-hmm.
if you find the right manager to do that, you have managers who are like, no, you need to be here 8 to 5. You got to do this. You have to do that. And I just think the younger workforce these days, they just see things differently. And there's just these different opportunities that weren't there before. And so you just have to figure those out. And it is harder for the older generation like myself to do that. And it's a progress. It's always a work in progress.
I think, one of the things that we talk about on the podcast a lot is risk. And in changing the way we do things or looking from a different perspective, there's some risk associated with that. Risk that maybe you would embarrass yourself to your upper management or, the other people that you manage. Risk that maybe something's not going to go well and the performance isn't going to be there. Outside of this particular employee and kind of looking at your career, I think as you talk about being a bobtail driver and a service tech and, managing supply. As a woman in this industry, there was probably a lot of risk involved in taking on those positions and clearly succeeding at them. What kept you going and what was that like?
When I came to work for AmeriGas 30 years ago, it was one of those jobs that I needed a job that had benefits. Literally, that was the only reason I found this job. And then when I got into the job, my manager that I had was great with me of going, hey, you need to learn how to do this, because we were a small site. You had to be able to do everything. And so it was just, for me, once I got into it and I started learning it and all the different aspects, and I got to go travel and go to different service centers and help them get through problems that they were having. And then, Bob Rosser and Gene Bassell, when he was, at AmeriGas, he was like, you need to get involved in the national group. You need to figure out what's going on in this country. And so they were like, we pay for you to go do this. And so it just kept getting layer on layer on layer on layer. And so it just something that I fell into by chance. And then here I still am because I want to learn. I never stop learning, right? I'm still learning. And that's what I encourage, all of the younger people coming up, and especially the women too, because the women think, oh, well, I can't do that. Well, yeah, you can. I had to go get a CDL. I didn't think I could do that, but it's just, you can do it. And I look up to some of the ladies that I see now at MPGA when I go to those meetings, the younger group, that I see in there. And it's just exciting to see them going, oh, wow, I can do this. Because, they see me and Leslie and, other ladies that have been in there forever, because we've been doing it. And you just never stop learning. And that's me. I'm still learning, but I've had great mentors that tell me, go do this. You just need to do this. And I've had a lifelong career of, maybe a couple of different companies now, but I've got to see the world, I've got to go do stuff. I've got to speak in England at a conference and, install bobtail, printers in all over the country for AmeriGas. And so it's just, I think they just need to get out and do it and not think that they have any parameters.
I got to ask, what was the most challenging and what was the most entertaining part about driving a bobtail?
Challenging for me was, because when I drove a bobtail a lot, I was up in northern Arizona, so it was weather.
Okay.
and driving up on the Indian reservation up there and having to put chains on a bobtail in the snow, that is hard work. That is really hard work. But entertaining wise, I think, being a bobtail driver, you just get to go out and you get your stops for the day and you get to see the country, and you probably run into a few customers during your day, maybe you don't. But it's just you can just go out, and it's kind of a freedom, I guess, because you're not stuck in an office like this. But the things that you see out in the world. And for me, entertaining wise, it was me when I moved to AmeriGas in Glendale. They were a huge facility. And I mean, we had 18 bobtails at that facility. And so if they would send me out to drive a truck, it was like all the guys would stand there and watch to make sure I could drive the truck. Or if I made all my stops for the day, because they were like, oh, she'll get 3 or 4 done, and so that was the entertaining part for me of driving a bobtail. It was just to see other people like, oh my God, there's a woman driving a bobtail.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that too, because you even said it just now that if there's the younger generation or even the women in the industry, go get your CDL. Why can't? Yeah, you can. I mean, you just explained the worst part or the challenging part was driving through the snow. Well, if
Yeah.
you're living down south, you don't have to worry about that. But the entertaining part was seeing the world, seeing the countryside, seeing other people watch you succeed. That's a little bit of an entertaining piece of it as they're like, wow, there she goes. Let's see how this lasts. And you're like, nope. Came back the next day, jumped in another truck, loaded up, went and delivered, came back the next day, and then you just worked your way up. And that's incredible because part of that leadership is not really handed to you. You got to earn that. And you did that by stepping into a man's role, if I can say that okay on this podcast, because that's why we do these women in propane podcasts, is to talk about leadership and the women, the influential women in the industry.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely, I feel like I've worked really hard to get to where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was handed to me or said, "Hey, we think you should just do this." It was all an earned type of thing, and so that makes me really proud because I did earn it.
Right. What about when you talk about, you mentioned Gene, another kind of dynamo in the industry, and when he encouraged your involvement in the National Propane Gas Association, you're obviously still involved and involved at the state level, but what do you get out of that? I think, we see the numbers and engagement in professional associations across the board is waning a little bit. And, there's not, maybe it's, there's a lot of speculation. Is it lifestyle changes where both men and women are working and then you want to be home with your family? So events aren't as appealing, but you're still engaged and involved. And what would you say to people as the benefit of either participating or finding someone in the company or organization that could participate?
I think it's always been important for me. So I'm really involved in my Arizona Association, and I've been involved in my Arizona Association even for the couple of years that I had to live in California. Because you just get to know all of the members in your state. You know how they work. You know what their businesses are. And Arizona is a pretty small group. But we know that if we had a problem in any part of the state, that somebody else would help us. So it doesn't matter what name is on the door for us in Arizona. If somebody's got an issue or a serious crisis, there's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 different companies that are going to come to their aid. And to me, it's that camaraderie ship, I guess, maybe. And it's, and getting people through training and working with our fire departments. We do a ton of fire training in Arizona. We've got 3 or 4 guys in Arizona that are just awesome at it. I like to, I can do it. I'm not as good as they are. And so I try to get out like the once a year. We do a 3-day class down near the Mexican border. But so it's just getting to know those people in your state and how they work and what they do. And then as the national thing, then I can go there and I hear about all the stuff that's happening across the country, what they're doing in Minnesota or New York, and I can figure out, well, that could happen to us in Arizona, or things that happen in California. We try to keep them in California, but, we know it may come here. So at least I have a heads up on it. Versus I'm just sitting here in Arizona waiting for somebody to tell me something. So I like to go out and figure out what supply's doing and, what other marketers are doing and just hitting the committee meetings. And, sometimes I'm not a member of that committee, but I like to go sit in them just to hear what's going on in that group. May not apply to me today, but it could apply to me tomorrow.
Yeah, that access to new and relevant information that could potentially impact you, I think, is invaluable. And one thing that I would comment on with the natural disasters that have been happening, unfortunately, in the Southeast, that probably has never been so true, where the industry is stepping up and helping one another, whether it's supply or employee assistance or, whatever the case may be, which I think keeps a lot of us in the industry, as long as we are, and certainly as long as you are, as you have those relationships and those connections. Are there other organizations that you dedicate your time to, either in service or in advancement of your own skills?
Well, I do. So I'm also an insurance agent on my other life. So
Okay.
I work with a broker, and we do insurance for propane companies and
Okay.
trucking companies that haul petroleum products. So I do that. So I do a lot of classes as far as that goes, as far as making sure my ethics are up and all those things that I do. But and then I also sit on the Better Business Bureau.
Great.
We have an advisory board here in Northern Arizona. So I sit on that board, and we talk about things that are happening out and how the Better Business Bureau can help not only the companies that are involved, but our customers that are out there. Because people think the Better Business Bureau is just a complaint department. But they have so many programs to be able to go out there and help small businesses. Some seed monies and all kinds of different things that they can do. So I do devote myself to that. And then other than that, it takes up a lot of my time with, just the local stuff that we have here. We have World Oldest Rodeo here. So that's a big project for us every year for a week.
Yeah.
In summer. So just the local things here and there and yonder. Other than that, I do try to stay home with my family once in a while.
I was going to say your dance card is full. You got a lot going on.
Yeah, definitely.
You finish with it. Other than all of that, I do find time with my family too.
Yeah. And my kids have grown up in this industry, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, my daughter was just barely one when I started. So,
is your daughter part of the propane industry right now?
She is not. She actually works for a U.S. bank, and then my son he's my oldest, and he works for Amazon.
Oh, wow.
So we have a big Amazon facility here. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
those deliveries coming.
My son got, rode in the bobtail when he was young. He pulled hose, so
yeah,
that's incredible. So I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, based on that kind of ending of that question. And I love this question because I love the word inspiration. People get inspired by different things, and I know I've shared a few, and Bridget shared a few. What inspires you, Lisa, to continue doing what you're doing? Whether that's, something with your family or even just the propane industry, or maybe answer both of those.
I think what inspires me, I mean, every day is different. I get bored pretty easily if I'm not really busy, as you can tell. So I think every day is different in the propane industry. We deliver gas from point A to point B, but some days that's just totally different. It's different how it works. And so I think that inspires me. And I think it inspires me too, to just be able to get out and I do get to travel a little bit, and not as much as I used to, but to get to go to MPGA meetings and board meetings and Arizona meetings and, EDP meetings, those kind of things. And so I think that inspires me. I just like that every day is different. I mean, it's just exciting when I wake up in the morning. I'm like, oh, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. I can live up to that. I wake up every morning and I'm just excited to say I get to go to work today and come home to my family, and that's just incredible to have that feeling.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Freddie, are you ready?
I think so. All right, Lisa, thank you for the leadership questions. They were very insightful, and I appreciate it. Now we'd like to kick off the whip round, where we just fire off questions and answer whatever the first thing that comes to your mind. So I'll kick it over to Bridget to ask the first question.
All right. Now, because of where you live and the terrain you are traveling in, I am most interested in, what do you keep in the trunk of your car?
Chains for the bobtail.
I'm like, something to deal with rattlesnakes.
No. I mean, there's nothing you can do about a rattlesnake. I keep a blanket. I've got a blanket. I've got hat. I've got gloves. I've got duct tape.
This isn't like a murder mystery podcast. This is a leadership podcast.
Every break up here, because we're Central Arizona, so like it was like 38 degrees here this morning. If you're ever out and about and you break down, you need to make sure that you stay warm and you've got hat and gloves. I usually keep like a little bottle of water in there, and I keep duct tape because duct tape can fix most anything.
It does.
If you break a hose on your car, you can probably duct tape it back together to get you to where you need to go, and toilet paper, because you never know when you might need that.
Boy, if I'm ever stranded, I hope you come pulling up.
I know, right?
That's fun. So, Lisa, what is your ideal vacation?
Oh, ideal vacation. Ideal for me is traveling with my family. I've got two granddaughters now. And so anywhere we go, we've done beaches, we've done mountains. We just got back this weekend. I took him on a surprise trip to Legoland in California.
Awesome.
So I surprised him Friday night. I met him at the little airport that we have here, and we flew to LA for the weekend.
Fun.
And so ideal for me is just anytime I get to spend time with them and of course my children, but my granddaughters, I tell them come first now. So anywhere we go, we have a great time. So those are ideal vacations for me.
Oh, that's
amazing.
Nice. What do you wish you would have known when you were 16 that you know now?
I think I would have known more about how to save money, and how to budget better in those days. And I think I wish I would have learned some of that more. I'd be more situated, I guess, in my older life now than I would have been, than I probably are. So I wish I'd learned a little bit more about finances and budgets and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Lisa, I'm going to steal Bridget's question from our last podcast. What's the last gift that you've given? Not received, but given.
The last gift that I've given. I gave my daughter a new pair of winter boots the other day.
That's nice.
Yeah. So
that's fantastic.
That's a great gift in Minnesota.
We found this brand of shoe that we all love. And my children always buy really crappy shoes, because they're like, oh, they were cheap. And I'm like, okay, well, sometimes cheap is not good for your feet. And so,
Right.
So now I buy them shoes. Even though they're adults, I buy their shoes because they refuse to buy reasonable shoes.
I love that. I'm going to send this podcast to my mom. All right. My last question is, if you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
If I had a superpower, gosh, I don't even know what that would be. If I had a superpower, I wish I could just, looking at the world as it is, especially today during these election times, I wish that I could just make everybody get along.
Mm-hmm. And not that'd be a great one.
And not have these divisions of hate and badgering. And there's always going to be a difference of opinion, but I don't like the way it's coming across right now. And I wish I could make that a little more even out.
Out of all the superhero questions that we've asked, I like that one the best, because in a time of this, what's going on, we all need it. Great answer. And my last question, Lisa, is if you wrote a book about your career or life, what would the title be?
Well, it's funny because BPN did a news article on me several years ago, and they call it Jill of all trades.
There you go.
And so it may be that Jill of all trades.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, I have it.
Certainly sounds like it.
It's actually back here on my wall. I keep it. They framed it for me. So.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
The Jill of all trades. Wow, that's really good. I'm going to write that one down.
I like it. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. This has been so much fun.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks for involving me.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you so much. And on behalf of the Women Propane Council, thanks for being on our podcast. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
This has been another episode of Through the Leadership Lens, presented by Women in Propane. Be sure to subscribe, download, and share with a friend. To learn more about Women in Propane, visit us on Facebook, Instagram, or online at www.womeninpropane.org. I'm Freddie Riddler.
And I'm Bridget Kidd. Thanks for listening. Until next time.